if you find that you are suffering in service of something else, I'd want to investigate that with a coach and just see, is that actually required? Because maybe there's a pleasurable path.
Yeah. Well, and I think that too, I think that passion, the emotional side of passion is you enjoy it. And it's pretty clear from my just getting to know you briefly through this show and talking before the show is that you're passionate about helping and serving other people through life coaching. That's certainly, you enjoy that. But
Oh
I
yeah.
think that you're key to your longevity in this, because I mean, life coaching for 20 plus years, your key to success in this is because you endured, and not painfully so in the point where it was negative, but you endured it because you knew that there was a payoff in the end, that there was something bigger. So 3 years before you crack $100,000, I mean, most entrepreneurs I know, if you're not making a couple $100,000, it's not worth the money isn't worth the suffering. The money is not worth all the mess. Go make the same amount of money at a 40-hour-a-week job and go home and don't have any stress, right? But you endured and pushed through that. That's what I mean by passion.
In today's ultra-competitive business world, being a successful entrepreneur or business owner can be very challenging. Fortunately, contemporary times have blessed us with resources for tackling those challenges and getting us to success more quickly than we could have imagined. Welcome to The Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs grow incredible companies. This podcast looks at the 5 keys to unlocking success as an entrepreneur. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason's mission is to use his gifts of teaching and leadership to help others get the results they want out of life. Join Jason every week and learn the keys to grow a truly successful business.
Well, welcome back to another edition of the Root of All Success podcast. I'm the Real Jason Duncan, and I appreciate you coming in to join us. And I'm coming to you from my home studio today in Gallatin, Tennessee, just north of Nashville, doing this episode by Zoom. And so if you are listening on any of the podcast players, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate being syndicated on the C-Suite Radio Network. We're glad to be a part of that network, and I'm glad that you're here to be a part of our show today. But if you aren't watching on YouTube, I really highly recommend you go check it out, because YouTube, being able to see the guests and see what we're doing and what we're talking about is a fantastic thing. And for those of you watching on YouTube, you just saw me straighten one of the pictures on the wall behind me, and I'm trying to get my mic situated. So that's the way it goes with doing podcasts. So I want to talk about our sponsor for today. Our sponsor for today is the Exit Accelerator Group Coaching Cohort. This is actually something that I run on a regular basis, and I today am going to take the opportunity to make that our sponsor, because our guest today is one of the world's best life coaches. And so I really believe that you need a life coach. I think you also need a business coach. And so what I do with the Exit Accelerator Group Coaching Cohort is I take people just like you through 12 weeks. We meet 8 sessions, and I teach you the 4 things that you need to know to exit your business. Because really, think about it. Are you living the ideal life that you truly want to live? Are you living that freedom of time and energy and money that you started your business to get in the first place? Well, if you're not, what if I told you there's a way to get that sooner than later, and you don't have to sell your company to make that happen? It's something I call exit without exiting. And I started this Exit Accelerator Group Coaching Cohort specifically to teach the 4 secrets that I learned after building a multi-million-dollar business that was recognized in Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, and even by the federal government as one of the best entrepreneurial companies in the country. I learned how to exit that business without selling it to a third party. I get to maintain all of the financial and tax benefits of business ownership. And I designed this cohort experience to teach you the secrets and the steps, the practical steps that I use to do that. If you're interested in learning more, go to exitwithoutexiting.com. That's right, exitwithoutexiting.com, and sign up. The next cohort starts. I would love to get you in it, and it's only going to be for 12 people. So make sure you go sign up today at exitwithoutexiting.com. So today's guest on the show is David Wood. David is, you're going to hear today on the show about how he went from being in the actuarial business, a very highly paid, very successful and well-respected person in that business, working on Park Avenue, downtown New York, and did that for 20 years. And then by the suggestion of another person in his firm, he went to this conference, and it completely changed his life, and how he took that, what he learned in that conference, to develop into a life coaching business where he became the #1 life coaching person in the Google search. You know, if you at one time, if you search the words life coaching, he was the #1 guy. He has he's worked for Fortune 100 companies in his actuarial business, like Chanel, Sony, Exxon. The guy's got a pretty stellar career, and then he spent some time traveling and singing, trying to be an entertainer, figuring out if that was going to be something. And you're going to hear a story about how he went on national television in Australia, and what happened. Did he pee his pants or did he not pee his pants? You're going to find out on the show today. And he's no stranger to his own. You know, when he's helping coach other people through life coaching things, he's no stranger to his own problems in life. I mean, he overcame a full collapse of a paraglider, which he's going to tell that whole story, which I find very interesting. He had a fractured spine in another paragliding accident. He witnessed the tragic death of his little sister when he was only 7 years old. He's going to tell a little bit about how he overcame that. And how he's overcome other things in his life, like anxiety and depression. He has a book called Get Paid for Who You Are, with a foreword by none other than Jack Canfield. And he's got a great story he's going to tell on the show today about how he met John Gray at midnight in the hotel in his pajamas. So stay tuned. Listen to this show. You're going to hear about how this guy coaches rockstar entrepreneurs how to double their revenue in less time, get more done in less time. He is the Focus CEO. He is David Wood. David, thank you for being on the show, man. It's an honor to talk to you today.
Well, I like hearing that. It's a good way to start my morning.
Well, so I in the intro, I talked about your paragliding accident, and that anytime we talk about, anytime on the show, we can talk about personal stories. I think it derives a lot of interest. So I'm really glad that we got introduced to each other, and it was only recently that we met, but you did tell me a little bit about that, but not all the details. So let's start there, if that's okay, kind of tell, because that's a pretty big thing. And then I know you got a couple other cool stories in your personal life, and then we'll get into the entrepreneur side of things. So what happened, man? I mean, how did the paragliding accident happen?
Well, you know, I've had quite a few experiences in paragliding, and some of them have been quite dramatic. One was in Bali, and I bought a wing in Nepal. So I was, and you know, this guy had said, "Oh, this is a good wing. You can trust it." So I'd flown it in Nepal, and went up to 10,000 feet above sea level. But when I got to Bali, I kept on trying this maneuver called big ears. That's where you shrink the size of the wing. You actually collapse just the sides of the wing so that you can come down faster. Sometimes you want to get to the ground as quickly as possible, or just lose some height. And so I did it, and every time I did it, something weird happened. It's like I lost power, and I was falling faster than I should, and something was just off. And I kept on trying to repeat it because I wanted to work out what was going wrong, because it's very important. You don't want it to go wrong at the wrong time. And so finally I said to the instructor, what am I doing wrong? And one guy said, well, you got to send it in for repair. You got to mail it to Australia, and they'll check it out. And then someone else said, it might be pilot error. So I said, all right, give me one more chance. I'm going to go up, and you watch me do it and see if I'm actually making a mistake, and you'll be on radio. He said, all right, go for it. And when I did it, I tried that maneuver again. And this time, instead of just dropping faster than I expected, I had a full collapse and just plummeted towards the earth. And I didn't even know that I was in free fall. I had my focus on the wing, which everything had gone to hell. And the sounds it was making, and it was zooming over my head and then collapsing and falling backwards. And meanwhile, I'm heading towards the earth. And I was only 300 feet up to start with. Fortunately, at 80 feet, I managed to reinflate the wing, and now I'm heading straight for a cliff. I managed to turn and avoid the cliff. Now I'm very low over the ocean and in risk of landing in a very bad place, but I managed to scrape up enough lift on the hill to get back up and land with all the other pilots. Fell to my knees and kissed the earth. So that one I actually got away with not being injured, but I was a little traumatized. I actually went back and kept on flying and went to Colombia, and it was there that it was far less dramatic. I was actually 1 foot above the ground. I was so close to landing. A little bubble caught me. I went back, didn't control it properly, and I fell about 10 or 15 feet onto my butt. And that's not something you want to do. So that's where I did fracture my spine and went to the hospital in an ambulance. And then after that, I gave up my wing. I sold it. I said to myself, David, if you want to fly again, you have to watch accident videos. You have to watch accident videos of paragliding to really confront what can happen. And if you're willing to fly after watching those videos, you can fly again. Well,
Wow.
I watched the accident videos and I was unwilling to fly again after really confronting what could happen. So I sold my wing, sold my motorcycle, because if I couldn't justify flying, I couldn't justify the motorbike, which is even more dangerous. And so now I've decided I touched the sky. I did get away with it, and I'm going to bank my win and just keep my feet on the ground because I want to live. That was my revelation out of all of that.
Well, you know what's I've never paraglided, and I probably will never paraglide. I'm not interested in that. I have this, I'm not afraid of heights, I'm afraid of falling. And I think that the fear, I don't think I'd be able to overcome that. But you mentioned motorcycling, and I am a motorcycle rider, and I have that weird fixation on watching accidents too, not because I enjoy watching people get hurt, but because it reminds me of how fragile I can be on a motorcycle. And so I ride a lot, and I frequently pull up YouTube videos about motorcycle accidents so that I can be reminded of how quick it can go wrong. So but I also think there's probably probably an entrepreneurial analogy that we could draw there about your experience in the hang glider was, or your paraglider, was that you noticed something wasn't working right, and you tried to continue to repeat it to figure out how to do it the right way. And I think an entrepreneur, as we run businesses, sometimes things collapse, they don't work right, and we try to test it, and we be better at, we're try to be better at it. So how did you get your start as an entrepreneur? How did that all come about? Because you had this cushy job, and then you went to entrepreneurialism.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, and I want to double click on what you said about the lesson. A lesson that I draw from it, I'm fascinated by risk. I used to be an actuary, right? That was my job, was risk assessment. And I think as an entrepreneur, as a human, most of us are not taking enough risk in our life. We're not asking for what we want. We're not saying no to the things that don't work for us. We're not going for that celebrity to endorse our product or whatever it is. Most of us are not taking enough risk. And I want to encourage people to place good bets. If you're attracted to somebody and you're single, go and ask them out, right? That's a good bet. Worst that can happen is they say no. So most of us are not taking enough risk. Some people, not many, might go too far, and they are actually super leveraged, and they're really taking risks that aren't going to pay off. They might not be wearing a seatbelt in the car. That's crazy. Colorado, some people don't wear helmets because you don't have to. That's an example of doing something that is probably not going to pay off. So I say there's a sweet spot. We need to ride our edge and find out where we're actually challenged, but not go too far, like maybe flying the Himalayas in a paraglider. Now, how I did the career switch is I was working in Park Avenue, and I had a really great job, and I'm consulting to big companies, and I wasn't particularly happy. And I figured I had it made. Like I was 24 with an office on Park Avenue. That was crazy. I moved from Australia, and I just wasn't very happy. So someone said, go and do a personal growth course. You should try the Landmark Forum. I was like, well, I don't know. They all smile way too much, and they're wearing name tags. So I was a bit wary of it, but I went and did it, and they cracked my heart open. And I realized that there are people who care about the world and just devote their life to making it a better place. So I was like, wow, I didn't know that was possible. I thought it was about money and success. And I ended up quitting my job, moving back to Australia. And I said to myself, hey, you're probably getting this now. I have conversations with myself. I said, David, what would you do if you had 6 months to do anything you want? Anything. You've just quit your job. You got 6 months before you get another job. What do you want to do? And I'd always been impressed by those guys at the ski fields who would come out and they would play guitar and sing and get the whole bar singing. They do Piano Man, or they'd put on a black afro and sing Blame It on the Boogie, or an ABBA wig and sing SOS and get everybody singing and entertaining. I thought, that looks amazing. I want to do that. So I went and got a singing lesson. And 2 weeks later, I had my first gig for $50 in a bar that was next to a squash court. And I went and did my first gig, and I wasn't very good. I can't sing very well. I'm a good entertainer, but I'm not a good singer. And for a year and a half, that was my profession. I went and did pubs and parties and national TV and boats and all sorts of stuff. I rarely got invited back to the same place twice, because I wasn't very good. And somehow I accrued $10,000 as a professional entertainer. And one of the
that was a risk. Go back to what we talked about. You took a risk, right? I mean, going out there and entertaining and singing and something you didn't know if you were good at it or not.
Exactly. And one of the reasons I like to tell that story is because, the question I think is worth asking every day: am I playing full out? Like, what does it look like to play full out? Because most people don't. Most people are going at about 10% because that's enough. All right. So with this entertainment business, I suck, and yet I want to get gigs and have fun. So one thing I did is I found out about this national TV show that was auditioning for people for this segment they had called Red Faces, where you go on, you compete, you got up to 60 seconds, and then the judges gong you off. It's quite embarrassing, which is why they call it Red Faces. And I thought, wow, what if I audition for that? If I get on TV, that'll be amazing promotion for my thing. Anyway, Mr. Woody was my stage name, and I went and auditioned, and there were 300 people auditioning. I got a call back within a week, and they said, we want you next week. Can you fly to Melbourne? We'll put you up in a hotel. We want you on TV. And so, and that was as terrifying as any of the paragliding that I ever did. I was so nervous to go and sing on national TV. And at that time, we only had 5 channels. So everyone in Australia was going to be watching this thing. Wow. I was so scared. I thought I was going to pee my pants. And I did actually lose 3 drops of urine came out. Now, let me ask you, Jason, you're about to go on national television in a kilt, and now there's a chance you may actually pee your pants. Is that going to calm you down or make you more nervous?
Well, you didn't have pants on, so you were okay.
Well, I'm a practical man, and I had my overnight bag, so I went and put on 2 extra pairs of underpants. Just in case. Now, as it happened, I didn't pee my pants. I went on national TV. It didn't do much for my business. But again, the question is, what does full out look like? For a year and a half, that's what I did. And I went into it. When I got into coaching, and if you want, we can talk about how I built the business and how I did that.
Yeah.
And right now I'm interested in acting. I'm like, what does full out look like in acting versus just kicking the tires? So I love.
Well, let's talk about that, David, because you and I, when we were talking a few days ago in preparation for the show, we were talking about you are the coach that helps people focus on just going full out. And you talked about your acting gig, and you're playing Dracula in this outdoor play, and like you went on national television in a kilt, and you've done paragliding. All these things are risk, and you're playing full out. But how did you get into that? How did you you went from Park Avenue cushy job, decided to go do this singing thing just kind of for fun. But how did that transition into you now are an entrepreneur? You're building a business. You're training other people to do that. Tell me that story.
Sure. Well, I was fascinated by the concept of coaching as a career because in the Landmark Forum, the course that I did, I went and did 2 more courses, and I found myself coaching people. I couldn't help it. People would be complaining on the break about something, and I'd say, "Well, did you hear what the teacher said yesterday?" Or I had one woman had an affair 10 years earlier and had never told her husband about it. And he'd had an affair 10 years earlier and he'd come clean about it. And she'd been holding that over him for 10 years. And I'm like, really? And out of that conversation, she went and came clean. She went and confessed, risked her entire marriage for the possibility of true connection, authenticity. And she came back and shared how her life had changed overnight. And I was hooked. I was like, I want this coaching stuff. This is amazing. Then a guy had a business card. He was handing it out saying coaching. I'm like, wait a minute. You can get paid for this? So Landmark said, look, if you come back and do the 3rd course, we will train you as a coach to help people going through the program. I said, I'm in. All right. There was the first opportunity. Free training. I've just got to donate my time. You're on. And then a year went by and I went and did all this entertainment in Australia, and I was still interested. And finally I ran into a guy who was doing a course on coaching. And I said, I've been talking about this for a year. How about I hire you? I'll be your practice client. I'll pay you $25 a week and I'll learn from you and you'll learn by coaching me. He said, all right, you're on. And then I think it was a few days later, I was auditioning a woman for a duo because I can't sing. I decided, let me get a good singer and she can kind of carry me. And she was having some issues in her life. And I said, hey, I'm just becoming a life coach. How about you be my practice client? I'll charge you $25 a week. And, we'll both learn as we go. She said, all right, you're on. And it was classic because I didn't know really how to structure this. I knew it when I did it at Landmark, but I didn't know how to do it with a private client. And we do our first session and she'd say, what are we doing next week? What's our next session for session 2? And I said, wait and see, because I didn't know. I didn't know what you did in a second
Fake it
session.
till you make it.
I only knew what you did in the first session now. So I had to wait for my session with my coach to see what he did. And then I went and did that with her. So that's how I got started. I started calling all my friends. I said, here's my package, but I'm offering 50% off to all of my friends. A few friends took me up. A few colleagues took me up on it. And then I went and hired one of the top coaches in Australia. I thought, look, I'm good. I'm independent. I'm smart. I'm self-driven. Look what I've done so far. This is amazing. But why reinvent the wheel? I need to go and it was a stretch for me financially. I had to really put down big money on this coach. And she taught me so much, so many things that I had not seen. I got that push when I needed it. And one of the things that there were 2 marketing methods that I used. One was internet marketing, because I'm a geek. I'm a systems guy, and I'm like, all right, let me see how internet marketing works. So I went into search engine optimization. I studied it and went and did all that stuff. Ended up number 1, 4, and 9 on the search engines. There were people complaining because I was dominating the search engines so much for life coaching. And then the other method that she encouraged me to do was speaking. She said speaking had worked for her, and it was terrifying to me, the idea of being in front of a group of people and talking about life and how to have life be better. But she showed me step by step, hey, try this, do a practice at home. And that worked for a while. I actually got clients, but I was so scared, Jason. Every time I was so terrified getting up there on stage, and I felt a bit like a fraud. Something just felt off. I think what it was is I was trying to do a song and dance and present myself with a certain image, and I was just terrified about what they were going to think about me.
Well, let
And
me
so,
kind of put some structure around the story as far, for our timeline, because I'm trying to figure out the timing. So you were working on Park Avenue. You went and did the singing thing for a while, and just mainly for fun. It
for a
doesn't sound to
year.
me like you tried to do that for about a year. But
Yep.
then when did you go to the Landmark Forum? Like, was that while you were
Oh,
still
yeah.
working?
Okay. So the timeline was I'm still working in America, in New York, and I did the Landmark Forum, cracked my heart open. I realized, oh wow, life is different. I got training and coaching, and then I decided to quit my job, go back to Australia, and do this guitar thing for a
Okay,
year.
so you took the big risk. You quit the cushy Park Avenue job, moved back to Australia, your home country, start doing the guitar singing thing. But okay, so what happened next? What was the next step in that progression?
The next
Is
step
that when you went to the life coach, hired your own coach?
after about a year was running into I was trying to remember his name, running into an old friend who was now coaching, and I'm like, that was a kick in the butt to go, wait a minute, all right, I've been
Okay.
doing this singing, I'm not a good singer, this is not taken off, and it's kind of tiring. I mean, all the work you've got to do to practice and develop your craft, and then you've got to go and set up the equipment. I had a van, right? I got to set up the equipment. It took me like 50 minutes to get all the equipment set up. And then I performed for 4 hours in a pub with people who are basically not paying attention to me. And then at the end of it, you got to put everything back down and take it back home and then take it out of the car and put it in the garage. Like, it was a lot of work for a year and a half, and ended up with 10,000 bucks. So it was a labor of love. But when this coaching came along, I'm like, maybe I should do this. Now, I'd like to say all this was cold turkey. I just quit my job, and then all I did was this music, and then I quit that, and then I did the coaching. No, I kept my hand in the consulting. I kept my hand in it. I didn't want to. I wasn't making much money with the guitar business, so I went around to all my contacts that I had from Australia, from when I used to live there, and I said, I'm offering my services as a consulting actuary. If your company needs a little bit of help, I'm available. And that funded me. Like, that kept paying the rent and paying my bills while I was doing the guitar stuff. And then when I started coaching, I think it took me 3 years to crack six figures. And once that happened, I resigned from the Institute of Actuaries. Now, I don't know if you guys, to become an actuary, it's really hard. It took me 8 years to qualify,
Wow.
and most people fail. Some of their exams have a 90% fail rate. It was just brutal. And then, so to leave it, in my mind, I've never tried being a doctor, but it'd be like, I'm resigning from the AMA, or, you qualify as a lawyer and then you just leave that whole career behind. It was a big deal when I wrote that letter and said, I am out and I'm never coming back.
Mm.
And I never
How'd that
did.
feel? How'd that feel?
It was scary, and I think a little empowering. The reason I let it go is because they require 40 hours of continuing education a year to maintain your qualification. And I
Mm.
didn't want to do 40 hours. 40 hours, just 1 week, right? 1 week a year. I didn't want to do it. I wasn't interested in the legislation on life insurance and the legislation on pension funds and superannuation and keeping up to date. I'm like, this is bullshit. So I hated to let it go, but it was an integrity issue. I
Yeah.
no longer wanted to do it. So I do feel proud of myself for ditching something that took 8 years to get, and that many people try for even 10 years. The average time to qualify as an actuary, I understand, is 10 years.
So how long have you now had your coaching business, your life coaching business?
Oh, I love that question. It was 1998, the end of 1998, that I got that first singer as my first client. And so now we must be 31. Is that right? 31 years?
No, it's not that many. It's because I got married 95,
Oh,
2016,
it's
17,
23 years.
yeah, 23. Yeah.
Yeah, lucky I used to study math for a profession, huh? Yeah, so
There's
20,
probably a table somewhere that will tell us that.
it's 23 years, and today, you don't know this, Jason, but today is actually my birthday.
Are you
So,
serious?
so today
Well, happy
celebrating my
birthday.
birthday and 23 years not working for anybody else.
Wow. Well, man, well, happy birthday. And I didn't know that. Well, this is a nice surprise. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Well, let me ask you, David, some more specific questions about your story of success, because this show is called The Root of All Success. And I've got this theory, and in most shows, I clearly lay out my theory and then kind of test it against the guests. And sometimes it comes up now, sometimes I do it more pointedly. So today I want to do it more pointedly because I think my theory is that your success as a life coach, coaching 20 plus years, 2 decades, when you left a profession that a lot of people try hard to get into. You also left a profession that people dream of being in, which is the singing business, the entertainment business. But you did all that because your heart was broken and you really, really wanted to go do something to help and to pour into people. And
Oh,
so,
wait, actually, no. When I say they cracked my heart open, I wouldn't call that a broken heart, or broken in a good way.
yeah,
But
that's what I mean. Broken in a good way. Like, I got to go help people. I got to do this good thing. So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the story I get from you. So my theory is that there are 5 keys that every entrepreneur has used to unlock their success, whether life coaches, business coaches, they run in apparel stores or manufacturing, whatever it happens to be. I think that the first key to success is passion. And what I mean by passion is not just excitement and jubilation and enjoyment in something, although that certainly helps. But the word passion actually means willing to suffer, willing to endure for a cause. So, for instance, and I use this example a lot on the show, the passion of the Christ wasn't that Jesus was excited to go to the cross. It was because he was willing. It was rather he was willing to endure. That's what we call it, the passion. He's willing to endure for a bigger issue, right? A bigger thing rather than just what was occurring at that moment. So for you, David, as a very successful life coach who's coached for 20 plus years, do you believe that sort of passion has fueled and unlocked your success? And if so, tell me a little bit how that worked out.
Oh, the question feels deep to me. Let's see what comes out. Um, I think it goes deeper. When I was a kid, I lost my little sister. I was 7 years old, and she was killed by the school bus when we came home from school one day. And I witnessed it. And I think what happened, because we didn't really know about therapy back then, I didn't go to the funeral, we just didn't talk about it. I shut down my emotions. I shut down my feelings. And I grew up as a bit of a cardboard cutout without even knowing that that's what was happening. And then at the age of 24, I think just before I went to the job in America, I went to a therapist and said, I have broken up with the first love of my life 8 times. And now I want to get back together with her. What the hell is happening? And he helped me see that I had shut down emotionally. And he said, I think you are sensitive. You are sensitive, and that's why you're having trouble right now, but it's all been suppressed. You've got a complicated grief reaction. I think I can help you. And so he started my true journey in opening up and connecting with the world. I learned how to cry. I learned how to grieve. I went back and had conversations with my parents and my neighbors about my sister. I went and asked my mother if I could see her things that she'd kept, her blanket and her doll. And so that began my path. When I did Landmark in 1997, at the age of 27, that helped crack my heart open even further. I was like, oh, okay. And I realized I do care about the world. I didn't know that. I actually do care, because people were saying, I want to cure world hunger and I'm going to world peace. And I stood up with tears streaming down my eyes and I said, how do you know that? And I don't want any of that shit. I'm worthless. And the guy said, how do you know? How do you know you don't want any of that? Where'd you get that from? You got that from your past. And I was like, wow. And so yeah, I think it does go deeper. Now, passion, I think I do have a passion for helping people get in touch with their feelings and get truly connected with other people, because that's my life's journey. As I discover it, I'm like, oh, look, you can feel this and you can feel this and you can be honest here and you can go for this. I share it with other people. Now, you brought up something very interesting about endure. That's a tricky word. That's a tricky word. There are some things I've done where it's been really hard, like the actuarial thing. I endured. It was brutal. It was horrendous, and I endured to get to something that in the end I let go of. It just didn't really matter. So I'm not a huge fan of enduring. Okay, sure. Sometimes you just got to suck it up, get through it, get the stuff done. Fine. But if you're doing something you love, like right now I'm into the acting. I got a class that goes till 11 o'clock at night, and I'm now 53 years old. I don't want to be up at 11 o'clock at night out of the class. I'm driving to Denver. I'm driving to Denver 4 times a week to do rehearsals for this thing. 5 weeks of rehearsals. There's no enduring involved at all because I'm loving it. So the word endure is pretty tricky. If you find that you're being a martyr, if you find that you are suffering in service of something else, I'd want to investigate that with a coach and just see, is that actually required? Because maybe there's a pleasurable path.
Yeah. Well, and I think that too, I think that passion, the emotional side of passion is you enjoy it. And it's pretty clear from my just getting to know you briefly through this show and talking before the show is that you're passionate about helping and serving other people through life coaching. That's certainly, you enjoy that. But I think that your key to your longevity in this, because life coaching for 20 plus years, your key to success in this is because you endured, and not painfully so in the point where it was negative, but you endured it because you knew that there was a payoff in the end, that there was something bigger. So 3 years before you crack $100,000, most entrepreneurs I know, if you're not making a couple $100,000, it's not worth the money isn't worth the suffering. The money is not worth all the mess. Go make the same amount of money at a 40-hour-a-week job and go home and don't have any stress, right? But you endured and pushed through that. That's what I mean by passion. Now, if I may, the second key, so the first key is passion, but the second key I find in everybody's story to success is that they were at the right place at the right time. And for you, as an Australian working in the United States, working in New York, going to that particular landmark forum that was available at that time, that to me sounds like one, if not, there's probably many, but one of your right place, right time moments that catapulted you into that success stratosphere that you now experience. Would you agree, or is there another place in time that's more important to you?
Yeah, that's a good point. It was good timing because that forum that I did was in the World Trade Center as well, which we no longer have. So had that been at another time, that wouldn't have worked out very well for me. Who knows? The person that I spoke to who said you should go and try this, that was Solange Shara. She said, try the forum, this is really powerful. But I also have a suspicion that had that not happened, had I not done Landmark because she'd said it at that time, I would have done it at another time. It would have come to me. There'd be no way to avoid that. I'm destined. I just got corrected by my director last night. It's destined, not destined. I think I was destined for personal growth. I was destined to open up and to reclaim all the parts that I'd lost as a kid. I think I was probably destined to teach. I am a training geek. Oh my God, it's in my blood. It's in my bones. If I can see, oh wait, if I package it this way, it's going to go into your brain and you will get it. I'm made for that. So to combine, I hadn't really seen that combination before, but to combine personal growth with training, that's where I come in. I just happen to be really good at business from all the consulting stuff that I did. So I share my gifts with entrepreneurs and business owners. But it's really about living a life that you're proud of and that on your deathbed you can say, I gave it everything.
Well, you know, what you said, David, is so important, is that if you had not gone to that landmark forum at that time, there would have been another place, another time that you would have made that happen. And I do also believe that that happens for a lot of us, because so many times when I'm talking about this to my coaching clients and people, that when I public speak, they'll say, well, the jaded among us would say, well, Jason, you're just talking about luck. I mean, the entrepreneurs are so lucky. They experience success because they were at the right place at the right time. Well, you know, what's interesting about that is that the harder I work, the luckier I get. The more I put myself in places on purpose, I find that I end up being, quote, lucky, right? So you were lucky to be at the landmark, but you chose to go to it, and you would have done it had it not done it that time. You'd have done it another time, right?
Exactly. So I just thought of another moment where I was in the right place at the right time. And then I think we're going to come back to this place where, you know, anyone else could have been in that moment and not made it work. I was in a hotel in Corte Madera, California, near San Francisco, and I was locked out of my room at midnight. The key didn't work. So I went back and I said, this key doesn't work. Can you let me in? And while I'm there, I looked over and I saw this guy sitting by the fireplace. And I'm not good with faces, but a few months ago, I'd reached out to John Gray from Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and I'd asked if he might consider endorsing a book I was working on. Never got a reply. And I said to the receptionist, isn't that John Gray? And she looked up a list and said, that's the gentleman's name, yes. Gentleman's name? Are you kidding? He sold more books than God. Are you, like, come on, that's John Gray. And I wanted to go up to him, but all that was true for me is, you're successful. Can I touch you? Maybe it'll rub off. Like, I couldn't find a way to go up to him. So I went back to my room, and for the next hour, I was bitching to my girlfriend. And I think the fourth time I said to her, and I'm in my pajamas, right? The fourth time I said to her, I just walked away from John Gray. She said, shut up, put your clothes back on, and get out there. And so I got dressed. I went back out. It's 1 a.m. He's still there talking to friends by the fireplace. And I went up and I stood there and just waited until they stopped speaking. That was a long 15 seconds, I'll tell you. And then he looked up and he said, hi. I said, hi, my name's David Wood, whatever. We got chatting, and I offered to help him. I said, I got 40,000 coaches on my list right now. If I can promote anything, I'd be happy to help. And I'm a huge fan. And he said, oh, what are you doing for lunch tomorrow? And I was due to fly somewhere, but I said, I'm having lunch with you. And so I had lunch with John Gray, helped him a little bit, coached him a little bit. And then John Gray founded something called the Transformational Leadership Council. And what I didn't reveal is that 2 years earlier, someone had called me and said, hey, congratulations on your nomination to the Transformational Leadership Council. And I said, thank you. What's that? And it turned out he'd gotten the wrong David Wood. Are you kidding? So now I was devastated that I wasn't nominated to this thing. And he said Jack Canfield had nominated me. I'm like, Jack's been following my career? Are you really? So excited. Then I find out he's got the wrong David Wood, who I'm often confused with. And now I've met John Gray, who founded the Transformational Leadership Council. And so I called John and said, any chance you'd consider nominating me? Because they only take 5 members a year. It's like a big deal to get in there. Any chance you consider nominating me? And he said, well, yeah, but I don't know how to do it. I said, if I handle the paperwork, would you sign it? And he said, yeah, sure. So they'd already closed nominations, but because it was for John, they opened it back up, and I got nominated. I got voted in, and found myself on a beach in Hawaii hanging out with Jack Canfield, John Gray, Marianne Williamson, presidential candidate, as peers, not as I'm here to watch them on stage, but like as family. And I think that came from 2 things: being in the right place at the right time, and putting my clothes back on, getting back out there, and just saying hello and taking a shot. Man, and it's led to so much in my life.
This is why I love doing this show, man. This is so my 5 keys of success: passion, Right place, right time is number two. The third, which you just mentioned without knowing it, is knowing the right person. Like there in all stories of successful people, there somewhere was one person who made all the difference in the world. And sometimes that person could be a negative influence. It could be just that person that pushes you because you pissed off and you don't like them. He pushes you into doing something new. Or it's somebody like John Gray or Jack Canfield, or you mentioned the name. It was a very interesting and unique name about the person who told you to go to the Landmark Forum. What was that person's name?
Solange Shara.
Yeah, then that's a fantastic Solange Shara. So
Yeah.
she and these other, and your girlfriend, right? Get your clothes on and go down there. All these people had they not pushed you in the right direction, you wouldn't be on the show today. You wouldn't have the book. You wouldn't have the career. Let's think about how amazing those people have been in your life.
That's so true. And the universe had a little bit of a hand in this as well, because the kicker is a year later, I'm there talking with my peers in the Transformational Leadership Council, and something went into my brain and said, wait a minute. I know. And I had a guy from the steering committee in front of me, and I said, I know how I got nominated because I asked John to do it. And I'm assuming I got voted in because everybody, it was John Gray. And they're like, oh, well, John says that we're going to vote him in. But how'd I get through the steering committee? You guys didn't know me. How did you not blackball me? And the guy thought for a second and then said, we thought you were the other David Wood.
That's amazing.
So I find out about it because I'm confused by the other David Wood when he was nominated and didn't get in, by the way. And then later on, the universe provides me with an opportunity to get in, and I get in partly because of that confusion again. And I was going to resign. I was so devastated when I found out that, I got in under false pretenses. And I was telling the story to a 10-year-old girl on one of our whale watching expeditions. She was a daughter of one of the members. And I told her this story and I said, I'm going to resign. She said, are you kidding me? You are so meant to be here. All of that to get you in here and you're going to resign? You are so meant. So
wow.
The universe sent me a 10-year-old to convince me not to resign. And I did stay, and it's been an incredible experience, and I decided to open up and receive it.
And that is great. I love it.
I rarely tell that story. That was fun.
That's so great. Do you happen to know who that 10-year-old girl is? Did you have a relationship with her? Like know who she is?
No, I can't remember, who she belonged to. I just remember her saying, are you crazy? You are so meant. And then someone was kind enough from the steering committee to call me and say, I heard you're considering resigning. I hope that's not true because you really belong here. And that was very sweet.
I think that when possible, my encouragement, and this is kind of a life coaching thing you would know more than me about, but I think when possible, I think reaching out to the people who've had such amazing influences and push us in the right direction, whether or not they are aware of it, I think is such an important thing. And I've had guests on this show that have broken down a little bit emotionally to think about, wow, you know what? I've never thought about that person and his or her influence in pushing me to success. And so I would encourage you when possible, and anybody listening, if there's a right person in your past, whether they were negative or positive, just send them a note. Say, hey, you may or may not know it, but the success that I experienced is in part due to your influence in my life. So thank you for that. And I think that that's so important. Well, let me get to the last two. So the last two keys to success, we got passion, we got being in the right place, right time, right people. Those are the top three, and those happen very clearly in most people's story. The last two are a little bit did have to dig a little deeper, but I don't think I have to dig very deep in your story. And that's the fourth key is preparation. It's having to know how to pull it off. And here's where I heard in your story, and I want you to tell me if you agree, is that your preparation to be successful as a life coach and to make a business out of it, not just to charge $25 a week and hope it works, right? But to make a business out of it, is that you spent so many years as an actuary where you learned business. You knew how to calculate things, how to think through business. You prepared for success as a coach by being the guy in the kilt peeing in his pants on stage, right? You pushed through those adversities so that you could help other people do the same thing. You fell out of the sky,
Yes.
for goodness sake, and now you know how to help people do it. Am I right? That's your
I
preparation.
love that. The words that come to my brain are street cred. You know, I feel like I have the street cred because I really have pushed the limits in my life, and I want to help others do that. And I've also pushed the limits too far, and I found out what trauma feels like in my system. So I love being a guide for people to lovingly hold space for them to do this. And say again the name of this fourth. Oh, preparation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
preparation.
yeah. I love that because now as I look back over the story, I see I prepared by doing the landmark. I did like 4 or 5 or 6 landmark courses. I went and volunteered as a coach to get trained. When I got back to Australia, I took the opportunity to work with this guy as a coach. And then I reached out to a guy who was starting the Coach U franchise in Australia and had lunch with him. And he said, you know what? I'm going to take a bet on you. I'm going to gift you the course. And, you know, this was like 20 something years ago and the course was like 2 or 3 grand. It was a lot of money. And he said, I'm going to gift you this and I just trust that you're going to contribute. And so I worked for him in exchange for this. And that was amazing to have all this coach training. And then I went and got a coach and said, you show me the ropes. So yeah, definitely preparation was involved in so many of these places. Just the fact that I'd reached out to John Gray asking for a testimonial before that had happened, and I've been stalking Jack Canfield in a good way for years. But you say preparation. The word that came up to me before this interview, when I was thinking about being on the show here, was commitment.
Yeah.
And Vic Baronco is someone that I followed for years, and he said, true intention is demonstrated by attainment. And I think that's true. If you really, really want something, you'll know because you are taking massive action around it. You are really going for it. And then ultimately you will have that thing. And that's how you'll know that you actually were committed to it. Otherwise, if you're not committed, you're just trying, and that's fine too. Yoda says there is no try, only do. No, there's both, but work out which one it is for you. You know, if it really matters, you can prepare fully and you can go full out. And if it doesn't really matter, do what everyone else is doing. Just do the 10% and just kind of go along and enjoy the ride. Totally fine, but know which one you're doing.
That's right. Well, the fifth P is the fifth key, which are all P's, by the way: passion, right place, right time, knowing the right people, preparation. The fifth one's plan. And I'm not talking so much about business plan, like people writing business plans, because I find that less than half of successful entrepreneurs ever had a written business plan. But what I mean is the financial resources required to make it successful. So when you started your coaching business 20 something years ago, what was your plan? It took you 3 years to crack $100,000 a year, 6 figures. How did you survive financially? What was your plan to make it through those early years?
Yeah. Well, I want to be transparent and say I did not sit down and write out a 3-year plan. It was more seat of the pants thing. And I've done that most of my life financially. It's like there's a part in my brain that just tracks the numbers and just knows when I should spend less and spend more. And so I'm not a big fan of budgeting. But what I did was I went back to Australia. I had a little bit of money and I actually sued my company because the severance package didn't seem fair to me. And I was an expert in this kind of a thing because that's what we did. And I'm like, you're not treating me the way we tell other people to treat their employees. So I sued them and then I got a settlement because of that. And that helped. That was like 35 grand. So I had that in the bank, but I didn't want to just spend all that. So I went and hit up all my contacts and said, I'm available for consulting. I've got a very specialized thing that I know how to do because I was over in the US. So I knew about how to, my eyes are going to glaze over already just thinking about it. But I knew how to prepare tax returns for pension plans for foreign entities that had a US parent. I knew how to do that. And people in Australia, found it so confusing, and it's like, I come from the source. I know how to do it. So they hired me. I was getting $150 an hour. Again, 20 something years ago, $150 an hour to work from home sometimes to do this consulting. So that was gold. And that took the financial pressure off, and that's what allowed me to do a career that wasn't going to really make me any money. And I did that as a luxury, as a gift to myself for a year and a half. And then I think I kept on to the consulting for maybe a year or two while I did the coaching, and then I'm done. I've now hit the point. I've got enough money coming in. I think I'm good now. And worst comes to worst, I could probably go back and re-qualify, if I had to. So that's how it happened financially.
Well, so now as a 20-something year veteran life coach, you've written a book, Get Paid for Who You Are. You've got other accolades to your career. So what is it that's your superpower that you're helping your clients with now? What if somebody out there going, I like this guy, what is it that he can do for me? What is it that you do for people right now as a life coach?
Yeah, I'll tell you the thing that I do for them that I think people recognize they want and that sells. I help them accelerate. So if what they're wanting, and most people want to make more money faster, and the second thing they seem to want is more time off. So they're not just working stupidly in the company, they're working smarter, and so they can have time off and more money. So that's the thing that I do that sells. The thing that I really do, my real superpower, my real gift, is I help them get in touch with the okayness of life. I help them realize that the problems that they're suffering from, that they're just fine. They're doing just fine. Even though it seems scary, even though it seems hard, sometimes it feels lonely. I help them get in touch with, hey, you're golden right now, just the way you are. Sure, there's more. We'll get there. That's my true offering.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective, because I think we deal with so much on Instagram and other social media platforms where it's this grind, hustle, go. It's not go. There's more. Well, I think there's a lot of peace and tranquility and knowing that I'm okay. Like, right, we're good. I'm good. There's more. And I was teaching a class about this not too long ago, the difference between complacency and contentment. They sound very similar, but complacency is, I get it. I'm okay with where I am, and I don't want anything else. That's complacency. Contentment is, I'm okay with where I am, but I know there's more, and I'm going that direction, but I'm content. And I think that it sounds to me like that's kind of what you're helping people figure out, is how to not be complacent, but how to be content with what's going on.
Well, let's jump another level. Let's go one level up. Let's go for joy.
Yeah.
Let's go for joy being, I'm thrilled with where I am. That's the holy grail. If you can be thrilled with where you are, and part of the thrill is I'm enjoying working on more. I'm enjoying creating more in my life. Like right now, acting's such a big thing in my life, because 6 weeks ago I said, hey, I want to get into acting and see what this is about. And I'm thrilled. I am having a blast. And all I'm doing is I'm in a local production of Dracula, in a play. And my last play, I was 5 years old. So this is all exciting and new. I'm in playback theater, an improv troupe. They just accepted me, and I'm in rehearsals for that. I'm in an acting class. I'm reading books on acting. I am living the life of a working actor right now. I'm not getting paid very much, but I'm actually getting paid, if you can believe it. And look, there's more. I'd love to be the lead in a major motion film. I'd love to be recognized on the street, at least for a while. It might get old. I'd love that stuff. So there's more, right? I have hope, and that's great. Yeah. But this game right now, this is the only game in town. I'm loving it. So if you can get to that, and I know it's not always simple to do. In fact, I think that's the holy grail. This is a huge part of enlightenment, in my experience, is getting firstly to, hey, everything's okay, right? That's the first step. Secondly, okay, I'm accepting, I'm even welcoming. And then the third, if we can get there, is I love. Like Byron Katie. She wrote a book, Loving What Is. She loves what is, which is just amazing to me.
Well, I think this has been a fascinating conversation. You're a fascinating individual, David. And I really am glad we had this conversation for the benefit of the listeners. So I want to give them a couple of ways to get in touch with you. So on Instagram, they can follow you at _focus CEO. That's _focus CEO on Instagram. They can go to LinkedIn and just look up focus-CEO. That's focus-CEO, and find you on there, David Wood. You also have a kind of a special offer that you want to give. You said that it's at myfocusgift.com. Could you tell everybody what's at myfocusgift.com?
Yeah, I thought of some fun ways that people could get some more value and interact with me if they want. And I created a gift basket of goodies. So there's a cheat sheet on how to achieve twice as much in half the time. There's a really great checklist. There's a video on how to apply it. There's a link to my upcoming book, Name That Mouse, because the elephant isn't the only animal in the room. And we've already got the mini book ready. If you want, you can go and get that right now. And it's your pathway to connection, confidence, and true leadership. And if you're interested in coaching with me, if you're already up and running in business, you're successful, and you've got goals, there are things that you want to get there faster, reach out again at that link, myfocusgift.com, and I'm happy to do a call with you, and we'll see if we're a fit. I'm not a fit with everybody, but if we are a fit, we could do some pretty cool stuff together.
Yeah, well, this has been great, David. Thank you for being a guest on the show today. Thank you for sharing your story with me and with my listeners. And thank you for following your passion and making sure you go through these weird undulations of life, from actuary to paragliding, to singing on stage, to life coaching for $25 a week, so that we can have a story to tell. And good luck in your production of Dracula. I know that's coming up soon. So good luck in that. Break a leg. I think that's what we're supposed to say to actors when they go on stage. Break a leg. Thank you for being here. It's been an honor to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thanks, Jason.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another story of a super successful entrepreneur. This one, a life coach who's spent time as an actuary, then did some paragliding, did some singing on stage, did some life coaching, and has turned that into an amazing career, helping hundreds of thousands of people over the years really figure out how to focus, how to get more done in time. And I'm so appreciative of David being here and telling us about his keys to success and passion, being in the right place at the right time. Knowing the right people and being prepared and having that plan. And if you want help with any of that, if you want to know how to get to success, go to therealjasonduncan.com/success. There's an assessment that I've got right there on my website you can take. It's 100% free, 17 questions. And within 24 hours or so, you'll get a personal report on your predictability, what your probability of success is based on the 5 keys of success. After I've interviewed literally hundreds of entrepreneurs against these things, you can know what your probability of success is. All right. Thank you for being here. Thanks for listening. I will see you again next time on The Root of All Success, when I talk with yet another amazingly successful entrepreneur about his or her story and how they became successful and how they use the 5 keys of success to unlock their success, the same keys that you can use to unlock your success as well. I'm the Real Jason Duncan, and remember, Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the Real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we invite you to visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Take charge of your business. Grow it from great to incredible. Join us again next time here on The Root of All Success.